All right, this is Jimmy Jive, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, I've got an artist from a standing band that's been around since at least 2024, where they put out an EP called Drummer. And last year in 2025, their first full-length CD called Radio Silence. They've got a new single out called Transcendenson, terrible with words. That's a single from a forthcoming album that'll be coming out hopefully later on this year. Anyway, today my guest is the lead vocalist from the band called Horizon Theory, and his name is Josh Harrington. How you doing, Josh?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's start with a little background. Tell me a little bit about where you're from originally. What bands or artists influenced you growing up?
Yeah, man. So originally, I'm from Elkhart, Indiana. Grew up most of my childhood there until I was a young teen. Then I moved to mid-Michigan. Moved in with my grandfather. Went to school here, graduated, did a little bit of college, kind of dropped out. Moved back to Indiana for a few years for work in my late teens, early 20s. You know, had a kid, started the family thing, and kind of wanted to venture into what I've always wanted to do my entire life, and that was maybe sing in a band, you know.
Right.
It's always kind of been, you know, a lot of my family members were in bands growing up. My dad was in a band. All the guys he worked with, bowled and golfed with, they were like uncles to me. They all jammed together. My uncle drummed in a band. A lot of my cousins played, you know, so I was around it, but I'd never really been in it myself, you know, at a young age, you know. So growing up, you know, I grew up to a lot of Ozzy, you know, Kiss, Black Sabbath, Tesla, Def Leppard, all the 80s stuff,
sure.
You know, all the 80s hair stuff, you know. You know, that stuck with me for the longest time. I mean, even through like when I was in high school, a lot of guys were listening to Godsmack, you know, Disturbed, stuff like that. And I was still kind of stuck in the past. You know, I was getting a little heavier, you know, more into Megadeth, Pantera, stuff like that, more into thrash. You know, like I said, it wasn't until I was in my early 20s when I wanted to when I thought about getting into music myself. You know, I spent a couple of years down in northern Indiana kind of looking around for stuff. I was new. I didn't know what to do. You know, I didn't have, I mean, other than family members, I didn't know any real good outlets of my age group kind of music. Kind of forgot about it. And then, hell, man, I think I was 28 or 29, and somebody from back home, back up here in Michigan, hit me up, said, hey, I got some buddies that are jamming. They need a singer. So I came up, and before you know it, I was making the weekend trip every weekend to come up and jam, and decided to move back up here. And that was the first band. That's kind of how it all got started. Cover band.
You said you hadn't really been any bands for that, and being in Indiana, you couldn't really find an outlet for it. Had you done any singing prior to that, like in school or anything? Any experience with as being a singer of any kind?
Not really, as far as like, you know, I mean, I was in like choir class in ninth grade type stuff. That was about it. We did do a talent show. A good friend of mine played drums. We, you know, him and I jammed to a lot of Maiden, Megadeth, Pantera, stuff like that. Him and some other buddies decided, man, let's throw something together for a talent show. So I think I was maybe a junior or a sophomore. That was the first time I'd ever like had a band, but we weren't really a band. We just jammed. We practiced 2 songs for the talent show, and that was it. You know what I mean? We weren't really a band, but it was kind of cool. We did Pour Some Sugar on Me, which was obviously a hit in high school. Yeah. I Remember You by Skid Row, and that was one of my favorite songs at the time. And we killed it. They loved it. Obviously, we lost. Too much screaming, they said. But yeah, but that was you know, that was kind of a cool little. That was my first got my toes wet. But like I said, it was years after that till I really got into anything serious.
Were there particular vocalists from those bands or anyone specific that really inspired you to sing the way you do or to perform the way you do?
Yeah, really, a lot of the 80s stuff, really. I mean, and some of the newer stuff, I'm a big Tesla fan. My parents were huge Tesla fans, so it kind of rubbed off on me. Tesla, Ozzy, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row, Tommy Shaw, Jeff Tate,
Sure.
Queensryche. That shit was huge. Bon Jovi, any of that stuff as far as cover wise, I can nail all that stuff. And it's just it's like a natural, I could sing all night tunes like that. I know a lot of people think, man, you can do that high stuff. If I'm only doing that high stuff, yeah, I could do it all night long. It's just like I grew up singing that car. Sure. Those were my main influences. But, I also, because I'm I was born in 85, so I'm kind of a 90s kid too. I was into the R&B. So, I'm a big Boyz II Men fan. I like Temptations. I like older rhythm and blues and stuff with soul. I'm a big blues fan. So I have that side of me.
Let's get into the band Horizon Theory.
Yeah.
When exactly did the band form? And I know you're in mid-Michigan. Did the band form out of mid-Michigan or did they form somewhere else in Michigan?
So basically kind of formed right here out of mid-Michigan, Mount Pleasant area, roughly. We started in 2023. I was in another band called Blackout, a local Michigan band. We were doing original shows. We were doing cover shows, casinos all over the state. We played a lot of fun stuff, a lot of Shinedown, as far as covers, Shinedown, Godsmack, Pantera, Michael Jackson, Bruno Mars. I mean,
wow, that's a good
fun bar stuff. And then we had originals. We were really good. I'm still real tight with those guys, but I was in that band, and a mutual friend of mine and Chris's, my guitar player in Horizon Theory, a mutual friend of ours who used to actually play bass in my band Blackout, he hit me up one day. I was on my way to a show, or I was just about to leave my house to head to a Blackout show, and he hits me up and he's like, hey man, I got a buddy who's starting a project, and he's got some pretty cool demos. He's looking for a singer just to lay vocals on these demos, just kind of a project thing. You should go check it out. And I'm like, man, I'm on my way to a show, I don't really have time. And he's like, well, you know who he is, don't? And he told me who he was. And I knew who Chris was. I'd never met him, but he was one of the guys kind of within our area in the state that had once before, got the hell out of here and did something with his life. And so, kind of local bands and local people in the industry kind of knew who he was, but I never knew him. I knew he was in a band. They were kind of touring and doing their thing, and they were on their way, I knew that. So when Jordan told me that, I was like, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit, but I'm like, man, I got to pass. Well, about a half hour later, he calls me back. And he's like, dude, sitting here, I really think you should stop by. And so, I'm like, all right, man, I kind of felt bad. Shot over there on my way to a show that I was playing that night with my other band. Walked in the room, his whole family's in the room, never met anybody. Jordan wasn't even there. He's like, I got to leave. He told me he'd be there. So it's kind of awkward. I'm walking into a room with 10 people, and I'm about to freestyle some lyrics on a song that I've never heard before, Yeah,
that's tough.
And so we sat down, and I listened to the tune for a couple minutes, and I started kind of humming a melody and wrote kind of lyrics to it, like a little verse chorus thing. Man, laid it down, and they fell in love with it. In fact, that song actually made that demo that we did that day when I freestyled that, revisited that. It actually made a second album, I believe. So that's kind of a cool story. But so that's kind of how the project got started. I didn't know at the time that the band that Chris was in before they split up, and him, the bass player, was still obviously real tight, and he's out in LA, Lewis. So he had already had a bass player. So once we started kind of writing tunes and this thing started kind of go somewhere as far as songs being done, we're like, shit, man, this is no longer a project. I think we're ready to explore our options.
Right.
So, and that, Lewis flew out. I met him. We got a drummer, and that was pretty much the start of it.
Now, those demos that you're talking about, where exactly did you record those? Were those like basement demos, or did you guys go into an actual studio?
Chris has like a little studio, a pretty nice room. We're real fortunate to have what we have over there. We do all of our own recording in-house. We'll do like half-ass mixes for ourselves to listen to, for a month or so, however long it takes till we really like a song. Mm-hmm. But then we'll send those songs out stripped down, just bare stems. We send those out to a guy named Chris Dawson, and he mixes all of our music. Okay. And then from him, it gets mastered. So, but we do all the recording in-house. So we're able to just kind of, whenever we're bored, we hook up. Wintertime's great because we don't have a lot going on.
As far as playing out, are there many clubs or places up in mid-Michigan to play, or do you have to go other places to get gigs or perform other than in the summer with festivals?
Well, here, like one place we really love to play at is our hometown right here in Mount Pleasant. There's a beautiful casino called Soaring Eagle. And, they have a great outdoor venue there. So that's like a bucket list for us, our hometown. And, I'm not sure how many people it sits, maybe 30,000, but it's a great place to see a show. But other than that, we have like the Machine Shop, which is a little smaller venue, but one of the most favored venues. It's one of my favorites. That's down in Flint, hour and a half or so from here. You have Grand Rapids, you have the Intersection. They're actually, you got Van Andel Arena down there.
So you're looking to play bigger places. You're not looking to really play clubs per se. I mean, what's the place you were mentioning? We'll see quite a few people. Are you headlining these shows?
So we haven't really headlined anything yet. Well, we headlined a couple local shows. We haven't done like any headlining tours yet. We'd love to play like the Machine Shop size venues, or there's a place in Cadillac called The Venue. Really nice. District 142, I believe. Like there's a lot of really nice venues around that we'd love. We're just right now, like as far as like doing local shows and maybe headlining, doing one-off shows, we're trying to focus on. That's tough on us. If Lewis, our bass player, lives out in LA.
Okay.
Just outside of LA. So then we all work jobs. We all have families, and we're doing this grind. We're grinding at home, and we're doing this grind. So if he was closer, we would do more of those type shows, one-off shows, or maybe like small little local tour headlining thing. But it's so hard for us to do that. We did just sign with a manager about a week after New Year's. The guy's name's Adam. He runs A2 Management, I believe it's called, and he knows his stuff. I mean, I think we're in really good hands with this guy. So it's nice now that we have somebody behind the scenes working for us. It's the first time we've ever had a manager or anything. We've been fortunate to be able to get these tours and stuff through some connections that we have. The Cold Orgy Tour, the 2-7 Dust Tours, the Head PE Tour, the Smile. And so like all the tours we've done, we've been real fortunate, especially to not have a manager or any kind of booking agent.
Yeah, that is cool.
It's tough. So to have this guy now, it's like game changer. And, we feel like he has our interest at best,
Great. And you guys are definitely musically at the level where I think you would definitely need management to help you get to the next phase, so to speak. All right, let's go back to your EP, your first EP there. How long did it take you to actually, demo it out and actually record it? Do you remember how long it took approximately?
So Astronomer EP, I forget how many songs are on. I think 6 songs.
Yeah.
So I believe most of those are ones that we had written that first year Chris and I got together. Within a year's time, but those are kind of handpicked between, I think we probably had 20 or 25 songs or something probably by the end of the year. That first year, and it's like, okay, we got to put an EP out. But we also kind of sort of got rushed into a couple of those songs because I believe we put a song out, Past Life. I forget the first single that we put out.
No problem.
I think it was Past Life. And anyway, we put the single out, I believe, and then we got an offer to go do this festival out in Connecticut with All That Remains. We hadn't even played a show yet. We don't even have a full set of songs yet. We had a bunch of we had all those demos, 20-some demos.
Right.
And that was coming up in like 2 months. We're like, shit, we got to get our shit together. So that's when we kind of handpicked a couple of those songs that we had written within that year, slap them together, within a couple weeks, sent them out, got them mixed, mastered, and that was pretty much our first EP. But all in all, it was about a year.
You say you kind of had to rush it. Are you guys happy with the results of that, or would you have done anything different if you had more time? Or I
think we're happy with the results. The same guy mixing our stuff now, Chris Dawson, he's the same guy who mixed it then. I don't know if he's doing anything different, but I feel like every song he does gets better and better. Maybe he gained more confidence in us, or maybe he likes us a little more, who knows? I don't know. But I'm happy with everything that we've done so far. I don't feel like we rushed those songs. We had them for a while in demo folders that him and I, we'd all listen to, every day we'd be listening to those songs, and over time we'd kind of both come to the conclusion what songs would go on an album. So it wasn't like, we had to hurry up and write the songs. They were pretty much already there. We just had to go back through, and all the stuff that we, over the last however many months, that we'd want to go in and change this part right here, and we need to do this, and then it's done type stuff. Yeah. We just had to knock that kind of stuff out real quick. That's the plus side of, having so many demos and we don't like to rush anything. We want to be able to listen to it long enough to where if we get sick of a part, or, maybe you don't catch something right away. Maybe it takes 5, 6, 7 times listening to it before you're like, no, we need to change this. It's boring. So it was that kind of thing with those songs.
For your actual first album, Radio Silence, did that take about a year to write and record also?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, we're always kind of constantly working. Really, our only slow time is if we're on the road or, midsummer. You know what I mean? It's about the only time we're not really doing anything. And that's just time wise. But for most of the year, we're always writing. Some of these demos, like a couple of the songs on Radio Silence, I think were part of those ones that we might have written within that first couple months of writing, when we first met. A couple of them,
Okay.
But, there was one that, like, the album was done and we were sending it out. And the day he sent it out, I think that night he was at home riffing on something and he sent it to me. And he's like, come over. So I went over there and I think he already sent the stems out, or he was sending it out the next day or something. And we finished this song and it was both of our favorite song that we had done. And we threw it on the album literally the last second. And that was right from the start, the song right from the start. And it was the last song we did, and it was literally last second, like it wasn't supposed to go on the album. So I don't want to say that was rushed, but it was like we did that in a night, and it was like, shit, man, we loved it. It's like perfect, send it. Some of the songs come quick, we have a lot of demos that we've had that are still sitting there that we haven't just, because there's so many ideas flowing all the time. So it's like he's constantly writing, and when he sends me something, if I like it, it's like, shit, I got to go lay something on that right now if I really like it, even if it's just a melody, with no words. Some of it comes pretty fast. The whole Radio Silence album, I would say, 6 months, 8 months. We didn't sit down and go, okay, hey, let's start this album. It was kind of like, all right, this song's done. This song's done now. Okay, this song's, we have a handful of songs. It's like, all right, well, which ones would go best on an album together? Kind of go from there.
Okay, the other thing was the band Horizon Theory kind of already formed before you joined it, or did you guys, get together, jam, and come up with that? In other words, who came up with the name, and was there any reason specifically for Horizon Theory?
I want to say Chris, our guitar player, came up with the name. I don't remember how he had seen it, if it was on a post or he was reading on it or something, but there's a few different ideas of what it kind of complicated, but it's like, one of the explanations is, or definitions, whatever you're going to call it, is you are the only one on the earth and everything revolves around you, everything here is for you type thing. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Truman Show.
Sure, I get you.
Sort of thing. That's one of the kind of theories behind it. The other one talks about space and time. It's super. So however you want to look at it, but I believe it was that Truman Show theory is what Chris kind of getting at when he found it. And for me, it was just I like the name. Yeah. It's cool. And that was after we had already been together. Hell, I think we'd been together a year or longer. Yeah, about a year. Yeah, we had to come up with a name. We had that festival that we were kind of rushing to play, and it's like, shit, we don't even have a name.
Yeah, you need a name for that. The other thing I was going to ask you about, earlier you spoke about some of the bands that influence you and all that. You mentioned Tesla, who I am a big fan of, have been since the inception. The band that, and I don't know if anybody has mentioned this or if you guys thought of it at all, that I keep hearing in your music, in that album, and especially in the new single, is Dream Theater. You guys seem to have that progressive kind of rock thing, but what makes it fresh and different are your vocals. You obviously can sing high when you want to, but you don't overdo it. Some of those bands, those 80s bands, seem to do that. You don't. And not only that, you seem to throw down some rap type stuff, I want to call it nu metal rap type signature stuff in that. Now, was that on purpose, or did that come natural, or did you guys get together and say, hey, I want you to try and do this or this? How did you guys come up with that sound?
Well, I can tell you the high stuff and that 80s stuff that you hear, I don't know if the younger generations can be, has an ear for that, but I'm 40, I know my age and a lot of people older than me, they hear that. That's just a natural, when we first started the band, I tried to get out of the vibrato. I tried to get out of the high 80s stuff, but it's just a natural thing, and we kind of embraced it. And I try not to put too much of that in just screams. I'm not big into songs that are just screaming the whole song.
Right.
So I like them sprinkled in.
Yeah, you got a good balance because you can get really rough, kind of that growling thing, and then the next minute you're more melodic, and it's a very good mix, and I hope you stay with that because I know into the '90s, when you said you were a '90s kid, more or less growing up in the '90s, that was typical. You had a lot of these like death metal bands that had that real and that's effective on some stuff, but I'm glad you don't overdo that. You got a good blend with that. I hope you stick with that, because it's very effective. But yeah, Dream Theater, like I'm not, saying you guys are at Dream Theater, but I hear that. To me, that is really cool because Dream Theater were one of the best progressive rock bands of the, in the 90s.
Yeah, I like Dream Theater. I found this cool Dream Theater clock at like a pallet store one day. It's like a silhouette clock of them. I still have it hanging on my wall. I've had it for years, but that's the first time I'd heard that, but I think that's damn near spot on, dude. I never thought of it like that. We do definitely have kind of that sort of progressive sound a little bit.
Yeah, that overflowing flow. I mean, you guys got some good crunch. I had read somewhere where people were saying you're somewhere between Soundgarden and Led Zeppelin. I don't really hear any Led Zeppelin. I don't really hear too much Soundgarden. I hear if I had to pick one band, it would be Dream Theater, only because of that overall sound, not the songs themselves, but the overall mix of these songs.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, our biggest thing is like we want to be real and we don't want to be stuck in a box. Yeah. We're not on a label. We'll never sign a deal that tells us, look, this is what you have to play. Like this album has to sound like this. Like that's not what we're about. Like our Radio Silence album is all over the but we feel it's a good mix. We write the way we write and the way we want our music like to project it. Like we want people to feel it. We want the emotions to go up and down, soaring vocals, big choruses, the scream part, that when you're pissed off or even when you're crying, scream parts, like it's all a different feeling. Like, and Dream Theater does have that kind of that broad, they can kind of go any direction they want, different sounds. Like we kind of tried in that.
Do you guys, I feel like this is the part of your sound that lends me to believe this. Are you guys using keyboards in some of these songs? Is there keyboard overlay?
Yeah, so most of it's just like a synth in the background, basically we play it with a keyboard, but it's like, a lot of them are pre-recorded sounds or you can make your own, program your own sound in and play it on the key. So a lot of times it's just that. Like, you don't have to do that stuff. A lot of bands don't do that. Big bands like Mudvayne, they're totally against that. They're all about going out and jamming. And we're all about that. But we feel like, I'm all about that old school jamming. And if that's what we got to do, we're going to go out and do it like we've done it. We're going to go out and jam just as hard. But like in today's age, everybody's attention spans are so short. They want to see 10-second video clips on Facebook or Instagram. They don't want to hear a whole song. They want to hear a part of a chorus hook, the main hook over and over and over and over and over. And so like that's kind of why we have some of that in there. Just it helps. Obviously, it helps with the bigger sound.
Absolutely.
In some of our songs, I like to get that feeling like, that Meatloaf, I would do anything for love. Big. You know what I mean? You can get that with sense sometimes, there's just a huge feeling. So try to do that. And we feel like that helps. And a lot of music today, the Octane, the new metal, the metalcore, a lot of that's in there. It's very opera feel, very, very theatrical. So, we like to sprinkle a little bit in there, not too much. Some songs more than others, depending on the real feel of the song.
You got to keep it real to what you're all about as far as that. Yeah. And I feel like you really do that. The honesty comes through in your music, obviously. I just think, like I said, that today there seems that most of the bands that are trying to be as heavy as you guys don't use synths much. They really don't. They might use it a little studio, but I think it really can help fill in the sound and just add a whole new dimension to it, especially for a band like you and the type of lyrics you're writing, the type of themes that you're going for in here. To me, it's incredible. It's awesome, and I hope you continue to use anything. Like you had mentioned earlier that you were into R&B. You could even experiment with some horn patches. I don't mean like you're going to start playing Motown songs, but I'm just saying having some like brass just kind of in there a little bit, maybe in the background, because that would shock the hell out of people, especially against what you're playing.
Don't ever count it out. So Adam, our manager, he's like, man, you guys do any covers? And we're like, yeah, we obviously we dick around with them. Like we don't whole band do them, but on the guitar and my vocals, we have a few covers on here, And
what covers are they?
Oh man, we got like Patience by Guns N' Roses. That's a really good cover that we're gonna end up putting out just for fun. You know, we have Tesla. What is it? What You Give.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We got Smashing Pumpkins tune. We got a Chris Stapleton song. You know, a little bit of everything.
That's awesome.
We're going to start pumping out little clips of those and just put them out there. We're not going to like push them real heavy, but broader audience. And it's, like I said, we don't want to be stuck in good content. I want people to know that I don't just do rock or metal or whatever you want to call it. Like, you know, half the time I'm listening to 60 love songs or 70 slow rock or 80 slow rock in my Jeep. You know what I mean? Like, we're at work. We have fun with it. And
everybody seems to be on board with it. Everybody seems to be going in the same direction, has the same type of vision. Now, your latest song that's, I imagine, coming out on an upcoming album,
Transcendence?
It mentions in it that it's featuring Morgan Rose. Now, who's that?
Morgan Rose is the drummer and one of the founders of Seven Dust, the band Seven Dust. Yeah, they've been around for a few years. The lead singer's name is LaJohn Witherspoon, well known. They're a great band. I mean, they're part of Janus Music Management, which is a management, you know, the band or the company manages Creed, Seven Dust,
major stuff.
Mammoth, which Wolfgang Van Halen's band made stuff. Seven Dust is part of that group, and just hella nice guys, man. I mean, they're legends in the rock and roll world.
Oh, absolutely.
And we're fortunate to do two tours with them. And on the second tour, Morgan Rose hops on our bus one day, and he's like, "Hey guys, you know," he knew we didn't have any management, and he's like, I want to work with you guys. And so we're like, you know, Giddy is all get out. You know, the founding member and one of the legend drummers in the rock and roll world wants to do an album with us. So we jumped on that, you know, a couple months after tour, and it went great. He's featured on every song playing drums, and he's doing backup harmony vocals on most of the songs as well.
So he's replacing your actual drummer?
Nope. It's kind of funny. Well, it's not really funny, but what happened was we were a full band. We all went down. We recorded a few songs with him and then came back, and, you know, a month or a couple months went by before we went back down. And within those couple months, our drummer at the time, Jeff, who was the starting drummer in the band with us, we kind of basically all parted ways. He has, you know, his stuff going on in his family life, this, that, and the other, and decided to take care of some of that stuff. So we kind of parted ways. And Morgan was already doing the demo. He was just kind of doing the demos, you know, at the time. I think Jeff was going to kind of lay his own stuff on him, but we were just down there kind of writing and coming up with what we were going to come up with. And then since us and Jeff had parted, we went back down that second time. We're kind of messing around with Morgan, and Chris goes, "Well, it looks like these next songs are going to be featuring Morgan Rose, you know, ha ha." And Morgan looks at him and goes, "Fuck, hell yeah, it is." And we're like, "Ain't no way. We're going to take advantage of that." You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It was pretty cool, man. So we had, I think, 3 or 4 writing sessions with Morgan. We drove down met with him down in the studio in like mid-Illinois and did the hang for about a week at a time every time, and just cool as hell, man. He's you know, treats us like family, and love the guy to death. Couldn't ask for better help. And yeah, great. Dude, I mean, it's a great boost to us. It's also a great look. I mean, here's this nobody band, you know, and they got one of the legend drummers. It's just killer. I mean, one of my idols growing up.
I believe you guys are up and coming. Keep up what you're doing and stuff, the honesty in your work and the type of songs that you're writing. I think you guys got a good chance. Do you think, as far as him playing in the band, there'd be any way maybe hooking up with his management to maybe get you out on the tours with some other groups with him? Is there any hopes in that?
Joked about that, like Lewis, Chris, and myself. I mean, that would be just stellar. I mean, what a story, right? You know, I wouldn't think he wouldn't do it. Like, I think Morgan would do that if he had time.
Sure.
But they just got done finishing an album. They're going to hit the road again. I mean, they're nonstop touring. Like, they've been so busy these last like 2 years. So, you know, and I don't know how much longer they plan on doing their thing. I really don't have any clue. I mean,
are you going out with them again? Any chance of that this year?
I don't know about this year. I imagine in the future, you know, it'd be cool to go to, you know, we got the head nod for that to happen again, you know, with their management and all the guys. Like, they pretty much told us that we're part of the family. So
cool.
The stage crew and everything, man, like, love all those guys. They're literally like family. But I'm sure it'll happen eventually. No rush right now, I don't think. I mean, we did 2 back-to-back with them just last year.
Yeah.
I'll let that breathe a little bit. I imagine it'll happen again.
Well, Josh, I'm going to let you go. It's been really great talking to you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
I wish you and the band the greatest amount of success. Like I said, I think you guys are on the right track with what you're doing. You're keeping it real. You're rocking out naturally. Your stage presence is incredible. You seem very natural up there. It's not forced, and I think it reflects and it attaches itself quite well to the type of music you play. So just keep that up. As I like to say, keep rocking.
Right on, man. Yeah, I'm having fun with it, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, all right, man. I'll let you go. You have a good night.
Yeah, reach out, man. Reach out anytime.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you. Bye.
Talk to you. Bye-bye. an outstanding new metal band. Well, when I say new metal, I mean NU metal, not new, called Horizon Theory. To date, they've got an EP and the full-length album out. The full-length album came out last year. It's called Radio Silence. It's exceptional. You can hear it and check it out on their website or, Spotify, like he said, Apple, all the streaming services. If you haven't heard of these guys, you need to. They're really good. I had mentioned like a Dream Theater type of thing. They got that in it, but the vocals aren't quite as operatic, let's say. Josh definitely has the range to do it, but he seems to know when to hold them, when to fold them in quite a natural way. So again, I can't say enough about these guys. I think they're on their way to some major success, and I wish them the best. Hey, is that old stereo system still giving you the blues? Maybe the receiver has a blown channel, or the turntable just doesn't work right. Well, you should visit my friends at 7 Grand Audio Service. They've been in business for over 40 years. The owner Dash and his assistant Harry can fix just about anything. I'm talking receivers, tape decks, turntables, EQs, power amps, and yes, guitar and bass amp. The phone number over there is 313-533-3635. They're open Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. You have any issues with any of your stereo equipment, old, new, whatever, it doesn't matter. Check them out. I know you won't be disappointed, and let them know Jimmy sent you. Anyway, with that being said, as I like to say, keep rocking.